Peace. Welcome to the Nod Yourself Radio Show. My name is Teray Allah,
Peace, Drulala.
Peace, Jakil Naj Allah.
and I would like to thank you for tuning in to our show. And it's really good to be with you today on what we call Justice Allah Now on the Power Day in our new year, 2014, which we refer to as the Truth Now. So, each show, as always, is brought to you and sponsored by Global Position Solutions at globalpeacesolutions.net. You can follow us on nodyourselfradio.weebly.com, and we are broadcasting from the beautiful Sage Studios in Inglewood, California. You can contact Mr. David Clark for all of your needs, and there are a wide variety of services that he provides to his customers. Among portraits for weddings, headshots for those of you who are in the entertainment industry, team sports, graphic design, digital scanning, and video to DVD. And one thing that is really important, photo restorations, because we are moving into the digital age. And you don't find too many people who understand the importance of preserving old photographs, as well as video production. And I wanted to let Jarul kind of add on about the studio opportunities here at Sage Studios as well.
Yeah. All you hip hop artists, all you musicians and things of that nature. He's got a fully functioning recording studio. With the mic booth and everything that you need, and definitely a great place to put your work together. So reach out to him. You know what I mean?
Right, and if you would like to get in contact with him, his telephone number is 310-674-1105, and he's located in 1321 North La Brea Avenue in Inglewood, California.
Right. Not only that, add on, this is a black-owned business, so let's support our people.
True indeed.
Definitely reach out and take care of them.
True indeed, good point. And, to begin with, I would like to thank my brothers as always. We built a really good and useful show. So this is the goal of today's show: how to maximize mental and physical power by using natural remedies. And today we're going to delve into your sexual health, your mental health, as well as your physical health, and some of the things that we've researched which are really helpful to those of you who want to get into optimum condition this year, and actually for the rest of your life, I being one of those. I want to give it over to Jakil, if you can hit him with the quote of the day.
Yeah, indeed. So the quote is, focus on remedies, not faults. And that's Jack Nicholson.
Right. Not really happy with some of the things he said over the years, but that is a really helpful quote. How's everybody see that?
Man, for me, it's just dealing with you got to think when you have an issue in your body, there's something going wrong internally, or it could even be a mental thing. But instead of focusing on the issue itself, focus on what you can do to remedy that issue. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Simply put, that's how I see it.
Right. Yeah, no doubt. I think too many times people often get concerned, or even, people like to be in that club. They're like, "Oh, you got a back problem? Yeah, I got back problems too."
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Versus saying like, "Oh, you got back problems? Well, here's how you fix it. 'Cause
Exactly.
it's how I fix mine."
Exactly.
So yeah, definitely. I see that. That's a great quote. You definitely should be looking at solutions.
Right. I think one thing that we forget, especially in the Western world, is that for every illness and disease, there is a cure for it in nature. And once we associate our body with nature and the environment around us, and we establish how to stay healthy, we can move into what would be considered better health.
Yeah.
Before we get into the meat of the show, why don't we go ahead and get into the current events, beginning with Jakil Knowledge Allah.
Alright. So I actually have a current event that's from shiftplan.com, and it's dealing with a new school curriculum that's going to be coming through, and it's called Common Core. And part of this Common Core, or at least what really caught my eye about it, is dealing with mathematics. So we deal with Supreme Mathematics, and nothing about this mathematics is supreme, or is it really based on actual good math practice? Um, the long or the short of it is basically if kids, the example that they give you is four times 3 equals 11. Um, and as long as the child is able to explain with some sense of rationale how they got to that answer and show pictures that coincide with how they got to that answer, that would be considered correct, and they will be able to move on and continue in their math journey. um, yeah, so I just think there's many things wrong with that. America already, when you look at our education as far as where we sit on that pole, you've got people coming into America who already speak English better than people who are born speaking English in America. They're ahead of us in math and sciences. And I don't really see this as a way of closing that gap, because that was the whole kind of premise behind this. Obama introduced this as a way to kind of close the gap between Americans and everyone else as far as our ability in math and science. And so, yeah, I mean, how you guys say, I think it just creates a further gap, because how math builds on itself. So if you can't do simple basic mathematics and get it correct, how do you move on to higher level math?
Well, to begin with, I think I would actually have to look more into the school district in terms of what you're referring to, because I know that with Common Core, everyone's going to apply it differently. However, the issue with anything that's new out of the United States Department of Education is if there's no sense of uniformity and there are really no clear guidelines on how to apply new standards in this case, then that just leaves it to the imagination of people, right? So I do, if I were to say there's one thing I may agree with in your story, is that back in the day when I was in math class, sometimes I would do my homework and I would come up with the correct answer of a specific problem. But then when I would get to class, the teacher would tell me, well, that's wrong. And I would say, well, why? It's an 8. But, well, the way you solved it is incorrect. Even though you got the right answer, you solved it incorrectly. That would be the only part of that I could see. But, looking at it from the surface,
Well, the school district
it's
it's Illinois, so that's where the
wow.
school is at. And actually, could you play that video, God? Yeah.
But even under the new Common Core, even if they said 3 times 4 was 11, if they were able to explain their reasoning and explain how they came up with their answer really in words and in oral explanations, and they showed it in the picture, but they just got the final number wrong, we're really more focusing on the how and the
Going to be correcting them.
Oh,
right?
absolutely, absolutely. We want our students to compute correctly, but the emphasis is really moving more towards the explanation and the how and the why, and can I really talk through the procedures that I went through to get this answer, and not just knowing that it's 12, but why is it 12? How do I know that?
Yeah. So I mean, there you go. I think the video pretty much speaks for itself, and again, like I said, it's just the whole thing of math building on itself. And if you can't do simple basic math and be able to show and prove it, then you're not going to be able to move forward in any other kind of math. So that's not closing the gap, that's widening the gap. So I think as far as he's concerned, Obama, he's right in line as far as his double talk. We have affordable health care, which is not affordable, Patriot Act, which is not patriotic, closing the gap, which is widening the gap. That article goes on, and I'll post it so you guys can check it out later. But it goes on to talk about how kids don't even know basic things. They were asking kids, what war did America get their independence from? And people didn't know, enough people who kind of thought they did know, they were giving wrong answers. Korean War, and so things like that. I just think, as parents, we really gotta
Homeschool our children.
Yeah, I mean, it's
We stated that on a previous show.
Exactly.
You know, go ahead. Kyle.
nah. I mean, that's it. That's it. I mean, bottom line is, being a parent, you should be really providing your children with the foundation they need to, survive in this world. You can't expect outside institutions to do it because, for one, you know, giving them the benefit of the doubt, they have a large group of people to try to educate when children have different needs and different, need more of a, I guess, an abstract approach to learning. You know what I mean? It shouldn't just be one way across the board for every child. So, as parents, you should know what's best for your child more than anyone else. So you should be providing that to them. That's how I see it.
Wow.
Sure.
Great points there. Why don't we move ahead and take it to our second current event with Jarul?
Yeah, this one was definitely interesting. It comes from allchristiannews.com.
Okay.
Hey.
And the headline is Pastor tries to walk on water like Jesus, then then drowns in front of his congregation.
Okay, that's terrible, man.
That's terrible. I'm not trying to laugh at
Yeah, I'm
you
not
know what I
laughing
mean,
at
but,
that part. But
Oh,
wow.
did he actually lose his life?
yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So
Wow, that is pretty serious.
his name is Pastor Frank Cabell. He was 35. He basically told his congregation that he was able to reenact a lot of the miracles of Jesus Christ. Now, that, to me, isn't where he went wrong. But where he went wrong was he didn't see the symbolism in those acts.
Yeah.
And he was looking at it on face value, like a lot of religious people tend to do, and obviously led to, his issue. So,
Right. Well, just on behalf of Knowledge Yourself Radio Show, we'd like to say peace to that congregation and to that particular pastor, just so that it won't be passed around. As such, I'm not laughing at what happened to the pastor. And keep in mind that when we bring in current events, we all like to surprise and inform each other at the same time, because this is a natural show. But it's pretty astonishing, you know what I mean? How seriously people take certain things, especially in terms of religion.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
yeah, it's just important when you look at the book, when you look at a lot of religion and a lot of the foundation, the scriptures and things of that nature, it wasn't meant to be taken on face value. It was meant to be looked at symbolically and, get a deeper lesson from the symbolism of it. Don't take it on face value and just try to carry those things out. So,
Thank
Yeah,
you for
you
that,
said it
Drew.
right.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I have a current event. It's coming out of the New York Times, dated for January 4th of this year. And it's talking about how the current governor of New York, Mr. respectively, Governor Andrew M. Cuomo, he plans on, what can we say, loosening regulations for legalized marijuana to be used in the state of New York. One of the things that is intended in regards to this, legalization, so to speak, of marijuana or medical marijuana, according to the article, it says that it will allow just 20 hospitals across the state to prescribe marijuana to patients with cancer, glaucoma, or other diseases that meet standards to be set by the New York State Department of Health. So, of course, New York has been said to have had one of the most punitive systems in terms of catching people or prosecuting people for possession of marijuana. So it's going to be interesting to see how this influences other states in the union to sort of loosen up,
Yeah.
the legalization of medical marijuana. So how does everyone see that? I mean, what are some of the benefits and or what may be some of the consequences of medical marijuana and the loosening of restrictions on that?
Well, there's been enough research done to prove that, medical marijuana, when implemented properly, can definitely help various, different health issues. So for me, it's like, why wouldn't you make it accessible to people? You know what I mean? If you
Right.
could help the health of the people, why not make it accessible? It's, common sense to me.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, if I can go buy GMOs and fake foods, right, and alcohol and all those kind of things, why can't I purchase medical marijuana that has 100 times more benefits than it has detriment to it?
Well, maybe that's why.
Right. It's gonna help people.
Right. Uh-huh.
Oh, great current event there. I want to pass it back over to Jaquil to hit you with the last event.
Yeah. So I've got one, Dylan, and this comes from Daily Mail, and that's UK site. And I mention that because I think it's interesting. The title of this story is "They Had No Idea If My Insurance Was Active or Not. Obamacare confusion reigns as frustrated patients walk out of hospital without treatment." So, and that's why I said I find it interesting, is because you don't really see this. That news article wasn't in an American paper, right? So that kind of leads you to think, well, why isn't American news reporting on American events that are actually important to the people? They tell you all these things about Obamacare, but they're not telling you that people are walking out of hospitals and not getting treatment because they don't have insurance.
Okay.
These are people who signed up for it, and when they go there to get some kind of help, the people are telling things like, "Oh well, we can't find you in the system," or "Your insurance isn't active yet." Can you prove that you paid for it? And so,
Okay. Where can the viewers find more information about that story?
um, dailymail.co.uk, and I'll go ahead and I'll post that in the
Okay.
Knowledge to Self site. So you guys can
Great. So,
definitely check
so
it out.
I mean, it's interesting that as time goes on, especially we could take it back to when Michael Moore and probably others before him. This has always been sort of a discussion in the Western world. Medical care and things now dealing with health insurance has always been a hot topic. It's going to be interesting to see as time unfolds. What are going to be some of the benefits and what may be some of the flaws in the medical care system. Let's say a decade from now. And it's just a matter of, I think for most people, anything other than having to pay out of the pocket to go to a clinic in the neighborhood is probably um, way more appealing. You know what I mean? But again, like we always advocate on this show, uh, try to take care of yourselves at all costs so that you won't have to, be a regular patient at a doctor's office. I think that's really one of the things that I kind of keep in my mind.
Well, it's going to get interesting. So there's another article that talks about basically you nor your doctor will be able to dictate how um, you get treatment, and so all the treatments provided to you will be told to the doctor via the provider.
Don't they do that already?
and you know what? That's a very good point, and that's something that um, I've said before to other people, maybe even here on the show, is that these things that begin to happen are not things that are new. They're things that they've already been doing, and now they're just trying to make it legal because they've been getting too much flack about it on the backside, right? And so they'll do a whole bunch of things behind the scenes, and then once they get enough lawsuits and enough people complaining about it, then they've got to then try to make it law and pass it. And so you find some way to spin it. So yeah, you're right, God. Those kind of things have been happening to where people try to get some kind of services and they're like, well, your provider doesn't da 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 da. And so yeah, you're definitely right. But now this will be something that will be, there won't be a way around that per se. At least not using your insurance.
Well, thank you for that, Jaquil, Jarul. You want to add on to?
Yeah. I have another current event. This is another religious one. This one comes from mojidenesa2.com. Whatever that means. The headline is "All religions are true. Adam and Eve a fable. Hell is a mere metaphor," says Pope Francis.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So the new pope, who just recently became, the next pope, basically, trying to clean up a lot of the tenets of Catholicism that, in his eyes, he sees as, for lack of a better term, just unreasonable. You know what I mean? So I'll just read some of the quote from him. Let's see. Okay, so the Third Vatican Council concluded today with Pope Francis announcing that Catholicism is a, quote, modern and reasonable religion which has undergone evolutionary changes. Time has come to abandon all intolerance. We must recognize that religious truth evolves and changes. Truth is not an absolute or set in stone, which I don't know if I agree with that. Even atheists acknowledge the divine. Through acts of love and charity, the atheist acknowledges God as well and redeems his own soul, becoming an active participant in the redemption of humanity. Through humility, soul-searching, and prayerful contemplation, we have gained a new understanding of certain dogmas. The Church no longer believes in a literal hell where people suffer. This doctrine is incapable or incompatible with the infinite love of God. God is not a judge, but a friend and a lover of humanity. God seeks not to condemn, but only to embrace. Like the fable of Adam and Eve, we see hell as a literary device. Hell is merely a metaphor for an isolated soul, which, like all souls, ultimately will be united in love with God. Unquote. Pope Francis declared.
Wow.
So,
I just think that people have been saying that a long time, as far as like in the religious world, that if God is love and how can He send people to hell? So I guess the Catholics finally got enough of that question and decided, He can't send people to hell. But then you got to think that kind of takes a lot away from Catholicism. So what is your idea of purgatory now? Does that also not exist? And then what about all that money that you took from people who are offering prayers to their family members or friends, whatever, that you told them that were in purgatory and that you can get them out of purgatory into heaven? Now none of that exists. So now are you going to refund those people their money?
Interesting. Right. I think that would fall on
do they even give
receipts?
receipts?
That request.
Receipts.
Receipts. So, the main thing I wanted to point out in that is just basically the use of how the Pope used the word evolution or evolutionary. And I'm trying to remember the second word, which was kind of not common. It's okay. I think for any pope, for that matter, to say that religion has evolved, it's really an interesting statement, which is probably going to shake up the Catholic world. And again, just like the other news events, legalization, marijuana, medical care, it's going to be interesting to see how all of this stuff unfolds over the next year or the next 2, 5, maybe 10 years. I think the state and nature of religion and what people's beliefs and faith is based on is going to change quite dramatically.
Yeah, I think the greatest thing about this to me is that he clearly states that it's a metaphor, and
Thank you. That was the other word.
Yeah, it's dealing with
fable. That's what it was.
Fable, right?
Fable of Adam and Eve. That's what it was.
Yeah. So it's just symbolic stories, and it's not just those two things that were mentioned, but the Bible itself. The majority is meant to be taken in that same light.
Right.
You know what I mean? And
well,
I think,
according to the Catholic Church.
Maybe the Pope is watching this show.
Yeah.
Peace. Yeah. So, Thank you all for
Yeah.
the current events, the warm
you
and
know
cold
what?
of it.
I had another quick one.
Okay.
So this one is talking about drone planes that will forcibly vaccinate American people.
Okay.
Um, so again, like I said, you really have to watch what happens and how these people layer events that happen, right? So prior to that, they were talking about how Amazon wants to use drone planes to deliver, your purchases. Um, so now what they're saying is that with the same drone planes, not different ones, the same drone planes, which will also be weaponized very easily. Um, which I think this is a sort of weapon because it's going to vaccinate you without your permission. So they'll basically release a chemical in the air that will sprinkle down on you eventually, absorb into your skin, absorb into the foods that you're eating, and forcibly vaccinate you, whether you want to go get the shot or not. So I think that's definitely a weaponized attack, if anything.
Where can the viewers find out a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I'll definitely post that article up. That one actually comes from Infowars.com.
Okay.
So I'll definitely get the link up so you guys can do the analysis of that.
All right. Thank you very much, brother. And we're going to go ahead and take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll get into the meat of the show. Peace.
Peace.
Peace. Welcome back to the Knowledge of Self radio show. My name is Teray Allah.
Peace, Jarul Allah.
Peace, Jaquel Nashallah.
And we're going to get into our show about our sexual, mental, and physical health today. And why don't we go ahead and hit you with the questions. So I'll let it run down the line. Jarul is going to hit you with the first two, and we'll just move it on down.
Okay, so number one is what causes impotence in men and how can it be treated naturally? And number two is what causes a dysfunctional libido in women, and is there a remedy for this?
3 and 4, are there natural ways for men to improve their stamina? So we're talking about sexual stamina. Number 4, which foods positively and negatively affect a person's sex drive? And why is Viagra dangerous?
Why?
Viagra.
Question 5 and 6. What do electronics have to do with men's vitality? What inhibits sexual drive in men and women? That was all 5. And question number 6. What causes female vaginal odor and how can it be treated?
Right. So sexual health is probably one of the most talked about topics, especially in relationships. But more importantly, some of us strive to, study more science about it if we are trying to improve our sex lives. So, this segment of the show is going to address several things, as mentioned in the questions. And first, let's begin by defining impotence, either on a street level or on a more scientific and sophisticated level. So, of course, if you listen to popular music and you've heard any type of dialogue between adults, impotence for men is when you can't get it up. So, if that doesn't raise a flag and you still don't know what impotence is,
Or maybe it doesn't raise
Yeah,
Exactly. No
maybe.
pun, no pun intended.
I want to kind of pass that around. What are some of the signs of impotence?
It's pretty simple in my eyes. Your man part isn't functioning as it should. So when it's time to get intimate with your lady, you're not able to, based on your man piece not coming up like it should, basically.
Not being the piece with the magnetic.
Exactly. Exactly. But the definition that I found was powerlessness, the quality of lacking strength or power, or being weak and feeble.
Yeah.
So that pretty much defines it in my eyes. You know what I mean?
I have my other health expert here. I like to get
man.
feedback from you.
I think he killed it. That's a great thing. I would say it has to do with your power. What does RZA say? I rise hard in the morning like a phoenix or something like that.
Right.
So that's definitely a sign of or a lack of sign of just physical strength in your body. So that not only is your man member weak, but your physical body within itself is weak, and so that's something definitely to look at.
Yeah, I think it's important that we recognize that impotence is a very major issue. I think a lot of times it's kind of gets laughed off and things of that nature, but for existence, for any living thing, if you don't have the ability to recreate yourself, then there's something really wrong. You know what I mean? So I think when you start to see those signs, it's really time to start looking at your lifestyle and start looking at some ways of making changes to help benefit that issue.
So what we're saying is that impotence and other issues that directly affect a person's sex life, there are some remedies to these.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the things that people tend to forget when they go and consult any doctor. One of the first things that people look for is some sort of prescription that will give them a quick fix, and that's why the advent of Viagra has just been killing the health industry, so to speak. I mean, in terms of increasing the libido or sexual performance, it's made it accessible to people who are well past the age that would be considered typical of someone who is sexually active or sexually healthy or sexually capable.
Right.
So thank you for that information. Let's begin with talking a little bit about what causes a dysfunctional libido in women. I think one of the things just in what came out in our research is we're specifically we always gear our show towards women specifically that live in the Western world, but this may apply elsewhere. Anytime you live in an industrialized society such as the United States, or you can pick any other country in Europe, there are several factors which leads to lowering the sex drive in women. So one of the primary factors, not the only, but one of the primary factors had a lot to do with the things that women are consuming. So we're talking about things such as food. What were some of the other things that factor into lowering a woman's sex drive?
I came across actual communication with the partner.
Wow.
You know, because obviously the exchange of vibrations is essential in the connection between male and female. So if the communication isn't there like it once was, then that can obviously affect that the libido, and also it affects males in their issues with impotence too. From my research.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I would say on the female part, to add on what you said, yeah, the communication is key. I think for a lot of times there are healthy females who, like the God was saying, don't have that communication with their partner. Therefore, they're not getting excited or wet in that area. And if you're not getting excited, stimulated that way, then having an orgasm is definitely going to be difficult. You got to look at the mind game behind that too, right? It's like, okay, am I going to want to just sit here and have that dude just lay on me for X amount of, minutes while I have to suffer through this?
Right.
And so then she's just not going to be, because for a lot of times for women, it starts in the mind, right? So you got to really stimulate her mind like that before you get to her body. And so if you're not stimulating her that way, or in her mind, if she can't get stimulated, if it's more of a drag, then she's not going to be as willing to.
Now, I mean, because we're all adults here, and hopefully you're adults viewing this particular show. I don't want my son come up to me and say, "Hey, that was an interesting show." But hey, anyway, the point is this. Some of us we've used adult entertainment in the past to stimulate our partner. Is that just in everyone's opinion? Is that a healthy option to improve one's sex life, but more importantly, to stimulate your partner? And we're referring to the libido. Is that a really good way to do that, just based on what we've all looked at?
I think honestly, it's more about it could be, but I think it's just about doing different things. Get out of your normal routine of things. If you do it every Sunday, same time. I think as a man, for us, being spontaneous, I think is very important. Not making it like, oh, we're about to do it, but
Right.
if your girl comes home, from work or whatever, boom, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Straight
snatch
like
you up
that.
and get it in.
Yeah,
Right.
I think that spontaneousness from women, I think, is very important.
Indeed.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm going to say in terms of adult entertainment and programming, one of the things that came out just in my experience is that you begin to objectify your partner. You know what I mean? And you begin to remember that your partner has emotional needs, which are rooted in their psychological or mental needs in a relationship. And I just want to take it back to what you both said. The communicative part of the relationship does stimulate the libido. What you say to your partner, when you say it to them. I mean, we have all this technology available to us, and for me, I can just say that in terms of adult entertainment, it puts a false image in your mind of what your companion should be doing with you physically. You know what I mean? And again, everyone they do different things, and you're all you have freedom of choice. But I'm just saying, just from experience, really that's not the greatest way to stimulate or motivate your partner to get physical with you
Right.
on a regular and ongoing basis. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I agree. I would say as far as the whole watching adult movies, it really just paints a not true picture of what sexual intercourse is supposed to be. And then you also got to realize too that a lot of those things that they're doing in those movies are for you, the viewer, not necessarily for the female to enjoy or for the male to enjoy. And so when you got them in these weird ass positions, and you're pulling on her hair, talking about look back at me. People get neck pains, and and so what looks good, in the movie doesn't necessarily work out in real life. And then,
No,
like
that's
you
real.
said,
That's real. That's real.
Yeah.
Like on many levels, because you think about the average person is highly deconditioned.
Right,
These people are working,
right,
so they do this for a living. So a lot of the
Exactly.
stuff they're doing, they've done before, and they're conditioned to do these things.
right.
If automatically, if all of a sudden you say, "Hey, baby, I want to try this tonight," she's not conditioned for that.
Right.
That's dangerous.
Uh-huh.
Right, and I mean, just for sake of giving the audience a Debbie Downer, there are a whole bunch of narratives out there and movies and documentaries that have been made about former porno stars. Those who they're now leading what you would consider a normal life. These are their words, and if when you get the narratives or listen to the narratives, especially from the women, they always tell you that a lot of that stuff was just there's nothing involved in it. I mean, really, they make a 3 minute scene look like an hour. So it's not really what you think it is. But again, it is fantasy. I did want to share some of the things as reported on the CNN health site, and it's titled "Low Sex Drive in Women," which is a really interesting thing some of you can look at. And I just want to kind of go over this briefly. Some of the causes of a low sex drive in women are physical causes, things such as medical diseases. This was mentioned by Jarul. Alcohol and drugs, that's something that tends to be overlooked. The wild woman that drinks a lot, in the end, actually can lower her sex drive. Hormone changes, these being in menopause, pregnancy, and breastfeeding. Psychological causes, one of those rooted in low self-esteem, so that would go back to communication, as was stated. How do you make your partner feel? Gentlemen, do you make her feel beautiful about herself? Because if you don't, and LL Cool J made a song about it, didn't he? Right? Because if you don't do it, another brother will.
Yeah.
No doubt about that. Relationship issues. A lot of times, low sex drive in women, according to this, is the lack of connection with your partner, unresolved conflicts or fights. Notice that I'm spending a little bit more time on this part. Again, poor communication of sexual needs and preferences. Let's stop right there. What does it mean to have poor communication of sexual needs and preferences in a relationship? I mean, on a righteous level, what does that sound like, man? I mean,
Man,
I'd like to know.
She's saying go left and you're going right. She's like, no, right there, and then you switch it up.
Right.
You know what I mean? Really, I think for men, it's ultra simple. As long as she'll communicate with you, you just ask her, what do you want me to do? And then it's that easy. And I think that lies the problem is that, a lot of men,
Going for
maybe
self.
women either, right? You're either going for self or, you're watching things on TV and you're like, okay, that's what she likes and that's how she likes it because that's what this girl likes. And, you know what I'm saying? Everyone's different.
That's a great point. What were you saying about going for self?
Yeah, you just gotta, be generous. don't think of yourself, but think about your partner first. I mean, ultimately, you'll get to the point where you're satisfied. So make sure she's good first.
Right. Right.
So now-
Exactly. Just the same way that you open the door to let her go first.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? You first.
So now, in terms of a healthy sex life, I mean, just based on the research that we put together in some of our own studies, I think the big question for some people, if it even is a question, in terms of a relationship, what is considered a sexy health life? Yeah, a healthy sex life. So, in other words, how often should a couple have sex, which can be deemed as healthy, and what is considered an unhealthy sex life? Okay, so let me just put myself out there.
Well,
now,
you know what, though?
yeah, I'm the
Let's-
oldest of the crew. But go
I was
ahead,
gonna
go
say
ahead.
let's take it a step back and define what we mean by sex.
Okay.
So, are we just talking about pure penetration, or
Wow.
Is it like the whole act of sex?
You mean to tell me there's something other than physical sex?
All that stuff that you see on Showtime at night. All that stuff that happens before sex.
So I would like to give it to you. How do you define sex if it's not limited to the physical realm?
You know, like I said, you really need to try to connect with the person's mind, right? So, I can't really give you an example. You have to look to my girl's text messages for that one. But you know what I mean? Like sending little messages
Right.
throughout the day.
Yeah.
And you know, suggestions. You don't have to be vulgar. Like I'm gonna throw you over the backseat or whatever. Or you know, maybe you want to get to that point.
Right.
It depends. But you know, definitely doing things like that. But as far as what I consider to be sex would be, you know, all about it. It's the hugging, it's the looking in the eyes before you even touch. You know what I'm saying? It's how you touch, it's how you kiss. You know what I'm saying? The things that you say and how you say those things. Timing is important. Yeah, I was gonna say something. I won't go there.
That's LL Cool J right there.
Yo, you know what I'm saying? That's the time frame I grew up in. You had to be a smooth dude, right?
Yeah,
You
ladies
can't
love
just-
Cool Kill, you know.
But only one lady's allowed to love me. Don't get me in trouble. Yeah, but you know, I think that those are all the important things. All the things that we used to hear in songs growing up back in the day. You know what I mean? Are the things that are all part of sex, and then the actual act of sex itself, and then combining all those things. You know what I mean? Are you just laying on the person and humping on them? You know, is there some kissing? Is there, you know what I mean? Things that will bond you. You know what I mean? I always say, like, you can go out and follow UC King anyone, but, you know what I'm saying, having sex with someone is not something that you do with everyone, right? That should be a
Right on. Right on.
special intimate thing.
You know, good point. I think
I'm about to
healthy
think of the guy
sex
too.
life. Oh yeah, you wanna go in?
Yeah.
Now, well, is there a difference between having sex and making love?
Nah, I would say that having sex and making love should be synonymous, and effing and sex or effing and making love are two different things.
Interesting.
I think that sex is really just using the word in general. It's when a man and a woman, they are exploring that feminine or masculine side of them in an act of companionship. You know, it happens to be physical in most cases, but you are exploring that side of yourself that you can't explore individually. I mean, some of you out there, you know, it makes me chuckle. Some of you out there may attempt to explore your masculinity through masturbation. I mean, you know, I don't know. My grandfather told me, hey, I mean, because this is Knowledge Yourself radio show. My grandfather told me when I was a teenager that.
Practice makes perfect.
Well, he said that, you know, he said that when a man masturbates, peace upon him, he said, that's when you know that you're a man. You know, and you know, hey, you know, I don't know, brother. That's what my grandfather told me. You know, some of you don't have conversations with elders about sex. You need to talk to them.
Yeah.
Yeah. You'll see grandma in a whole different light, boy. Straight up, man. But anyway, back to the topic at hand. Is there any point where we could say sex is too much, like to where it could lead to being unhealthy, or having too little sex? Can that be considered unhealthy as well? Especially, let's start with being in a monogamous relationship, married, or in a monogamous relationship. Let's be fair, and then for our single brothers and sisters out there. So let's begin with that. So how much is considered too much and too little in a marriage?
For me, you know, it's a case by case. I think a lot of what your foundation was that got you to the point of being, you know, married or together in that capacity, it shouldn't really change. You know what I mean? Because that's what you were both used to, and that's the culture that got you to the point where you're at, and that in this day and time. I think it's not so much the amount of times as it is what the feeling of that time is. Like the connection is the connection still there?
Quality, not the quantity.
Exactly. So if you lack the connection that you once did, then there's probably an issue there. And you gotta look a little bit deeper at that. So
Yeah, I'll say as far as having, I don't really know if you could really have too much. Although that kind of may vary because, um, at least for men, particularly, and I'm giving away some secrets, so y'all might want to rewind this and take note. So for men, when you guys ejaculate, or when we ejaculate, right, you're actually giving away your energy, right? So then there is a such thing as um, too much sex at that point, right? Because you're giving away energy that you can never get back. So I know there's some of you people who are into like the qigong sex stuff and all that craziness, right? And you can bring in energy. It's a lie. Because if you could bring in energy, then no one would ever die, right? Because you just suck in all the energy that you need to live forever, right? So you do have a certain amount of energy that's afforded to you for this existence and this time right now. And if you give that away, then you're not getting that back. So you're definitely shorten your life expectancy by doing such things. So,
which that makes sense if you think about it. Obviously, sex is for procreation. If you're having sex that often, quite naturally, you'd have a lot more offspring. There wouldn't be a need so much for you to be in existence if you have a large amount of offspring.
right.
And one of the things I was told about this like many years ago about you have to consider how much blood, if you're a male, how much blood you're giving off when you ejaculate. You know what I mean? And that's something that's important because we know that the source of that, or at least the pump of that blood, comes from the heart. So what you're doing is too much of that. You could actually put a strain on your heart over a period of time.
Yeah.
But again, you can all make your own decision.
And other organs too, right? Because you got to remember
Indeed.
when you ejaculate, that energy, every organ in your body is giving off the best of its energy to reproduce yourself. Because the body doesn't know that you're just having sex for fun, like dolphins. Did you guys see that article? Dolphins also apparently get high too. I digress. In any event, so when you ejaculate, right, your kidney, your liver, all your glands are giving off the best of their energy to that. So yeah, you're stressing your heart and your other vital organs too.
So I guess if I were to say how much is too much, because I can only speak from a male perspective, when you don't satisfy your partner, right, and consistently, that probably means that you need a little bit of a break. So give it, in a week. If you and your partner get together maybe 2 days out of that week, and I'm speaking to men, you are a total dud, man, maybe maybe you need to give yourself a break or utilize your time a little bit differently. As far as how much is too little, we just said that it's the quality and not the quantity. So we're all in monogamous relationships. Those of us on this show, I would say, if it dissolves to once a month,
Man,
I better be real busy,
yo, if it's
if not out of the country.
if it's like once a week already, I'm trying to have some kind of conversation.
So we're going back to personal preferences. You decide. If we were let's just make a blanket statement, all right? Because we do have women in our lives, and we do want to sleep in a room tonight. So let's make a blanket statement and say, when can we tell that something is wrong with the relationship in regards to physical interaction? So in other words, some relationships, some marriages, they're okay with not doing anything for like 1 to 2 months. So let's make a blanket statement. I mean, is
But I
there
would argue
something
though-
called too little?
I would say that those people who are doing it like that may not have a high sex drive or a normal sex drive. That could be wrong because we live in America, which is a highly sexualized culture. You know what I mean? So you definitely see sex everywhere. The whole what's the whole adage? Sex sells, right? And so America is just a capitalist place, so there's sex everywhere because people are trying to sell things. So that's everywhere from you buying a Pepsi to buying a car to Cars Jr. You know what I mean? So maybe they do have a right exact thing as far as sex, and like we talked about earlier, sex is really about procreation. And outside of us and dolphins, I don't really know of anyone who's hitting it just to hit it.
Mm,
So that's something to take into
Interesting.
consideration too.
interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like I said, it's a case by case basis, and I think really what it comes down to is your connection with your partner, and if that hasn't suffered, and say you're, not having sex as much as you might have, if everything's else's piece, and that's what it is. You know what I mean?
Right. But so again, though, that's why I say though, sex is more than just what I'm saying. What's that joke? You putting the limousine in the garage. You guys never heard that joke where he was like, "Mommy's putting or Daddy's parking the limousine in the garage." I'm gonna think about it. I'll tell
There's
you
so
stuff
many
later.
different versions of that, though, man. Yeah.
So that's what I have to say with that. It's just that it's-
Great discussion. So now we're going to talk briefly about sexual positions, and I also wanted to throw into this discussion how pregnant women can safely have intercourse, or if that's even advised. So that would be one thing, just based on experience. I've always learned that there are certain positions that pregnant women are not supposed to do. All right, because it's considered harmful to not only the pregnancy but to her in a specific physical state. So any type of straddling, in other words, a pregnant woman on top of you, at least from what I've studied, that's considered, a no-go, something that shouldn't be done. How does everyone see sexual positions just outside of pregnancy in that nature? But what are some positions that are considered unsafe, and some positions that are considered, safer than others? Just kind of put that out there.
make sure everything is secured down tightly. And I would say it's all pretty safe.
Okay.
Yeah, when it comes to the pregnancy thing, I think, when you think about the process of the hormonal, I guess, the hormonal cycle that a woman goes through when she has an orgasm, I always try to think of what would that hormonal exchange do to the child? Like too much of that hormonal, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The doctors always say it's okay to have sex when your girl's pregnant, but my thing is, if she can't get pregnant while she's already pregnant, then why would it be okay? What would be the need for it? You know
So
what
we're
I mean?
like dolphins, and we like to have sex for fun and get high off of porpoise fish.
Right. Yeah, I mean that would definitely be the argument is
Yeah.
that sex for many people is it's motivated by the need to connect with someone on a physical level.
Right.
But of course that depends on the person involved or the people involved in it. I know there are some diagrams out there. There are a lot of pictures and books written where they tell you exactly which positions you should avoid when a woman is pregnant. But
Go ahead.
yeah, some couples make the decision just not to do it for 9 months.
I was not one of those people. I will say though that definitely like you talked about, the straddling position would probably be a bad position, at least definitely later on in the pregnancy. We're talking like 7, maybe 6 months, depending on how big a baby is, if it's twins or whatnot. Um, as far as positions to do, I would say any position that allows less stress to be on the body. So like laying sideways is always a good way to do it, where you're both facing each other. Um, also you got to think sex is about being intimate, right? And so if you're not looking at me, that's not so intimate,
Right.
right? And so generally you want to find a position that's comfortable where you guys can share that kind of intimate connection with each other. I would say.
Yeah, I think after a certain point, it's important not to have your black woman on her back
Yeah, exactly.
because it restricts blood flow to your child. So
Right.
I can't remember what month they say you're not supposed to do that at, but that's
Probably
one
like
thing.
4 or 5.
Yeah,
So it's
something like that. Yeah.
Good point. Now, we know that there's no holes barred, especially when you're talking about sex. So we did want to briefly chat about anal intercourse. So I know that there are several studies out there that says that, that's something that should be avoided because then that's how you can communicate certain bacteria and germs, especially if you're a male and you're doing that. And also that it can lead to what would be considered some really bad bacteria being given to a female or your female partner. And then there are some other studies which say that you can take certain precautions to prevent all of these things, the exchange of bacteria and germ from happening during anal intercourse. So let's just put that out in terms of what's everyone's views, and we're not talking about our own personal habits here. We're just talking about, yeah, I mean, because, I got to let people know that, man, that, when we disseminate some of this information to you, if we talk about something like anal intercourse, that doesn't mean that we're experimenting on the side or anything like that. We're just putting it out there because this is a discussion that, quite frankly, it may come up over dinner tonight with you and your loved one. I don't know, whatever you talk about.
Yeah, Voidy came up.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, straight up. So, what does everyone's research show in terms of anal intercourse? The consequences. Is it a do or do not?
That's one of those things that I'd probably have to say is kind of on a case by case basis. But you definitely brought up a lot of good points. Specifically for females. And again, if you go back to watching porn or adult movies, right, you see a lot of times, sometimes they're going from anal to vaginal, right, or vaginal to anal. And I think that's where you get the risk of disease, right? You can go from vaginal to anal, but you can't go from anal to vaginal. And, again, if you're just watching those kind of adult movies and you're like, hey, I saw this in the movie, I'm going to go ahead and take it from here and stick it there and stick it back here.
Right.
You definitely be causing some problems.
Yeah.
So, you want to watch out for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for me, I keep it simple, man. It's simply, your anus is an exit for the things that your body doesn't agree with. So, that being said, why would you expose yourself to those bacterias, those excrement, the waste, all those types of things?
Right.
It doesn't matter how much she cleans. After a certain point of your penetration, you're gonna reach, those types of things. So for me, it was never been really that appealing for me personally. But
yeah, yeah. I must say I never really understood the whole, even in the adult movie scene. I was like, why would you do that when you've got a perfectly good vagina there?
Yeah,
right, run up in.
I never got it. I never got it.
And, especially when you watch prison movies, you're like, all right, so if all those dudes are running in people's exit holes, would that not be considered weird if I was to run up in someone's exit hole?
Right. So I think if you look at some of the studies out there, there are some sex doctors or sex specialists, they always say that there's one school of thought to where some believe that that is a power trip. You know, that is a man trying to exercise his power over a woman. But then in cases where there's an agreement there, there's also this sort of list of things that you should do. But, you know, for me, it's just if you're the type of individual who, if you're into that, I mean, there's a precaution. And this also has to do with your fingers. You know, you can't do anything with the anus and then use the same hand, so to speak, to deal with the vagina. Same thing with your male part, as we're classifying it on this show. You can't do it. You can't make a clean exchange between the back door to the front door, so to speak, for lack of better terms, without it being clean. So then, what's the best thing? Is just don't do it. You don't have to be worried
Sounds
about all
simple.
of that. Isn't that right? So, really
Although,
good, really good
they
thoughts.
do
Go
say
ahead.
that the prostate gland is a gland that is a highly sexualized zone, and that a lot of people and a lot of males do feel pleasure from being stimulated in that zone, whether that be a finger touching or a tongue licking or something being inserted into that. So again, like you said though, you know, that's your body and it's up to you to be sexual with it. By sexual I mean exploring the possibilities of sex with it. So that's something that you choose to do. Like the guy said, you definitely want to make sure that you take the precautions to clean those areas and be very safe when you're exploring.
It's peace to that. So we're going to go ahead and take a brief break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about mental health. Peace.
Peace. Oh shit! That's my fault. Yeah, that was me.
What's up, G?
I pulled your cord out.
Did I say something to offend you? Which cord? Oh, where is my charger? Where's my charger?
Yeah,
at?
that's the one he just pulled out.
Oh, this one's not even working.
Got a couple seconds.
Okay. Did you get those prints?
Oh, you
Get
sent
those
the prints?
Check your text.
Text message?
Yeah.
No, I didn't get it.
Yeah,
You just sent it right now?
Nah, I sent them before. In here.
Which one? You talking about
to
this?
the Majestic? Oh. No, I sent
The
it to
Dropbox
Majestics. I sent it to Majestic.
Yeah, I'll check after.
How much you want to talk about?
We ready. You ready?
I'll save it for the next week.
That brother?
Okay.
Oh yes.
K-I-N.
Now we're gonna get
Yeah, ready?
into True Indeed, mental health.
Oh, really? Okay.
Anytime you're ready.
That's right.
Peace. Welcome back to the Knowledge of Self radio show. My name is Teray Allah.
Peace, Jarullah.
Peace, God, knowledge of the law. Jacqueline, knowledge of the law.
True indeed. So before we left, we were talking about sexual health, and we're going to continue our discussion with mental health. So there are some very specific questions for this segment of the show. I just kind of wanted to break it up. One of the first questions we're going to address is what is depression and how do you treat it naturally? I wanted to pass over the next one to Jarul.
Well, I think not to go backwards, but I don't think we really gave them enough on what they can do to prevent to help the impotence.
Oh, you want to go into that?
Yeah, I mean, we should
Let's
deal
give
with
them
that.
some solutions.
Yeah, you got to give them some solutions.
Okay, let's give them some solutions.
You know, so first and foremost, you got to. It's not so much for me. It's not so much what you can do as far as what to take versus what you're doing on a daily basis that's causing it.
Okay.
So you got to look at first and foremost.
Doing, God.
Yeah, you know, we did a show on this. You could go back on the archives and do the knowledge to, you know, some of the things that kind of restrict your, you know, really take your power away. So for one, keeping your cell phone in your front pocket is one thing that has been proven to show that it not only lowers your testosterone, but also lowers your vitality and your ability to, you know, be ready when the moment's
At a moment's notice.
exactly when the
Spring into action.
when the lights are on. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's definitely one thing that you want to look at. Some other things I came across are diseases such as diabetes, high blood pressure, heart and thyroid conditions, poor blood flow, depression, which that connects the next segment in the first segment, or nervous system disorders like Parkinson's and multiple sclerosis. So,
Sure. Also, you know, vitamin C, or not enough vitamin C, vitamin zinc in the diet. Putting your laptop on your lap, wearing tidy whities. Will,
Tidy whities.
Yeah,
Go ahead. And what are tidy whities, brother?
you know, the old school underoos that we all used to wear back when they called them underoos.
Okay.
Right. That part of it is it heats that area up, your testicles, right? Also, any kind of constriction in that area will cause a lower impotence in that matter too.
Cigarettes
Alcohol,
would be
yeah. Alcohol, too.
another cause of impotency. Too much caffeine or caffeine in general, it depends on the circles that you're anything that you may be studying or people you talk to, that would be another cause of it. Also, just daily stress, as was mentioned to you. If you don't find a way to reduce the stress in your life, it's definitely going to affect other areas of your life, on down to your sex life.
For sure. Heavy
trying to
metals in the body too.
Heavy metals in the body?
Mercury and all that kind of stuff would definitely cause that. And then, you know, basically, you know, as far as when I practice energy medicine, I try to make things as simple as possible, right? So really what you're kind of looking at is the liver and kidney issues kind of being part of, and the pituitary gland, but, you know, you want to really look at liver and kidney. Those really big leading as to why people are having issues like that. So, in other words, if you begin to detox the kidney and detox the liver, a lot of those problems will kind of naturally fix themselves.
So it's all about, in the end, it's all about your blood circulation, or which is your blood flow. Because I know that, you know, if you study the dynamics of, you know, an erection, and again, this is the science of life. Those of you out there who are men, and I mean, you know, women that have men in your lives, you know, we're set up just as being gods on earth to study the science of everything in life. So that includes the human body. Much of what you're going to find in erections and things related to being sexually healthy as a man, you're going to find blood vessels come into play, and then blood constriction in the body, especially in the lower portion of your body. So if you have a lack of blood circulation, especially in that region of your body. So we're saying below your waist. It leads to quite a few problems in that area, especially your sexual health.
Yeah, sitting too
Yeah.
long is definitely another, um,
See
very
that?
simple thing. But you think about it, the way that our bodies are structured, we're not supposed to be in one position all day. So if you have a desk job where you're sitting all day, you get in the car, you drive an hour, you're sitting in the car, you get home, you sit on the couch, your blood flow isn't as loose as it
Yeah.
would be if you were standing up in more of a
Moving
natural
around
position.
and being active.
Exactly.
True indeed.
Yeah.
Great point. Does anyone else have any other solutions to impotency in terms of um, what they can use today and maybe run to the store, or what they can do today?
I came across one called L-arginine. I haven't tried it myself, so I can't speak to how useful it is and things of that nature. But it's said to be an amino acid that basically helps the body produce more nitric acid, and that causes basically the muscles to relax so that the blood can flow more naturally.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. So again, but that's why I mentioned the liver, right? Is because that's what um, creates a lot of those amino acids, right? And so if your liver is the governing organ in the body. So if that's not functioning properly and doing what it's supposed to do, then yeah,
Yeah.
you're gonna have those problems. So yeah, definitely. Like I said, cleaning up the liver, some good exercise, get with the guard you rule, let them work you out. Good exercise is very simple because a lot of times um, that'll fix things kind of by proxy, right? Because to work out better, then you kind of need to eat better. And then, you're saying eating better will take off the stress off your kidneys and liver. So now that'll have more time to repair.
And then the piece about the depression, it'll help with the actual, depressed mind state and things of that nature.
Right,
You'll be-
exactly.
You'll be able to get that released that way,
Right, and one of the things, and this comes from circulating in the West Indian or Caribbean community, in my Rastafarian days, they had this drink called root drink, and root drink it was all natural. It was made by of all these different herbs, and that was just the power play. So if you're a man, and you go buy some of that, go to your local Jamaican culture shop and ask them for some root drink. They'll have 2 or 3 different brands. And also, again, the Caribbean is a fascinating place in terms of making natural remedies for anything. If you go into, specialized shops, they'll tell you that the ingredients that you need in order to make certain stews and things of that nature, soups that you can eat, which will boost your sex drive and your sexual ability or your sexual prowess, and
Yeah.
however you want to address that. But yeah, check them out. Why don't we go into to mental health? And one of the things that came out, I know when we were researching this, is one of the things that I know original people can all testify is just their bouts with, or our bouts with depression. And one of the things that I sort of stumbled upon was an article about how unemployment um, is directly related to depression, especially in
Yeah.
Americans. But just think about the current unemployment percentage right now in the United States. Historically speaking, and it depends on which school of thought, but generally it's said that people of African descent or African Americans typically are 2 to 3 times that, meaning are unemployed. We make up triple that percentage of the unemployed in the United States. So if the national average is 7-8%, for African Americans it is about 3 times that, about 24% in our communities. So it's interesting how unemployment relates to depression. So what is depression, and how do we treat it naturally?
Depression, based on the definition I came across, is severe despondency and dejection typically felt over a period of time and accompanied by feelings of hopelessness and inadequacy. Yeah, so I think that the biggest piece of that definition to me is the hopelessness and inadequacy, and how, for me, knowledge of self is really a remedy for at least the inadequacy piece, because you realize that you're only inadequate because you haven't taken the necessary steps to be adequate.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
if you feel
Can you say
inadequate,
that again?
you're only inadequate because
Okay.
you haven't taken the necessary steps to be adequate.
Man, that's a T-shirt, bro.
Yeah, so that's how I see
I
it.
like it. Yeah. Definitely. I'll say, when you're looking at depression, there's a lot of different things to look at. One thing that, at least in practice, that I found is depression is really coming from a chemical imbalance in the brain, right? And so now you're looking at one of the two major chemicals that are being produced in the brain, one of which is dopamine, right? So having too much or too little of that can cause depression, right? And so one of the things that we strive to do is balancing that out, right? So we can give you something that will make your brain regulate itself, and so that you're getting the proper mixes of chemicals in your body, and that your brain begins to produce those chemicals properly and regulate itself. Because a lot of times what happens is through, whatever it is, it's through your eating, through your lack of exercise, and it's not just one thing, which I also find that people tend to do, at least in the Western world, right? We try to find out one thing. It's because you have low self-esteem. And well, it's like, okay, well, what else is causing your low self-esteem, right? So it's always more than just one factor that's causing anything, right? So you got to look at diet, you got to look at lack of exercise, you have to look at not getting enough vitamin D, which simply means going outside and being in the sun.
Yeah, that was the one I was definitely gonna build.
Yeah, I know you're just gonna.
That's major.
Yeah, I knew you was gonna say that one. And then like I said, all those things, those other two things that I mentioned, you can do outside in the sun.
Right.
So, in fact, what we talked about in the first subject, as far as sex, you can do outside in the sun. So there you go. You're fixing multiple issues all at one time. Although I don't recommend you eating outside in the sun while having sex. That's your own thing, though. Let me not control your words. Something I'm not going to try.
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, I would say that's the real simple fix as far as how I look at depression in people. It's just a chemical imbalance, because the brain lost the ability to regulate itself properly, right? And so we give it everything that it needs to make it do that again.
So I mean, we did mention the solutions, rather quickly, but one of the solutions to any depression is doing things that will lead to you seeing yourself as a more valuable individual, and much of that has to do with your own individual effort. One of the things that
With what other people think about you.
see, exactly. I mean, you hit the nail right on the head. Is that I try not to. I'm working really hard to teach my son that his value and his worth really has nothing to do with the people around him acknowledging how good he is at something, or how handsome he is, or things of that nature. Because as we become adults, we hear less and less encouragement in our lives.
That's for sure.
And if we're raised to think that we do things and someone always has to acknowledge that it's great or that we're doing good, then sometimes that leads to some sort of depression. Of course, you do have to be a really strong individual. I'll tell you right now, being an educator, you're not going to hear too many encouraging words about your practice. You're just not. So you kind of have to walk in there with your own self-worth about things. And I do have my bouts. Some days I'm like, wow, man, it's kind of gray skies over here, man. But at the end of the day, I think looking at your own greatness and trying to find a couple of things that you're really good at, not things that you do for other people, but just things that you do for yourself. You're really good at reading several books in 1 week. That's a sense of accomplishment. Not everyone can do that.
Right.
You're really good at swimming 10 laps within, a certain time frame. Just set your own personal goals and try to dig in deeper with that. Just being like a health fitness instructor, what are some solutions to depression that you would suggest to our viewers?
Yeah, I get a lot of clients who come and they start telling me a lot of the things that they've been suffering from, whether it be physically, and a lot of what's physical actually is rooted in mental, mental issues. So, yeah, they'll tell me about their bouts of depression and all the things that are going wrong in their life, the negativity and things of that nature. But really, what exercise is great for is you start to build success. Whether it's like, for example, your day one, you're maybe only able to do 2 push-ups, but you can see your success in a matter of a couple of weeks. You're
Yeah.
able to do 5 or 10.
Yeah.
That automatically is going to cause a sense of self.
Puff. Chest
Yeah,
puffing
you
up.
puff your chest out. Right. So you'll feel a lot better about yourself because you see actual results in a short time.
Yeah.
But just the routine of things, when you're doing something weekly and you're committed to it and it's consistent, it's like the sun. The sun's there, shining every day. And I think if you position yourself in that fashion, you'll be bright and you'll be feeling happy on
Right.
a daily basis also. You
Yeah,
know what I
for
mean?
sure. I agree. A lot of it is like you said, just being able to have some type of schedule and set thing that you do, and then to add to what you were saying, Dr. Ray, is set goals for yourself, and it doesn't have to be, you don't have to. Your first goal doesn't have to be to hit the moon. Your first goal doesn't even have to be to get to the stars, right? Your first goal could be thinking about a way to get to the moon, right? And then make that a goal. And so now that you've actually, and by thinking about it, I mean just sit down and be like, think about it, right? Get a pen and paper out and write down some thoughts that you have, right? And okay, now congratulate yourself. You successfully did something. And I say that to say that I think too many times people place their self-worth or how good they feel about themselves based on what other people are doing, right? So I can't feel good about my Toyota Camry because this dude's driving a Mercedes. But nah, man, you bought that Toyota Camry. You're making payments on it. Like, that's your car. You should totally feel good about that.
Right.
So, little things like that.
And that's a really good point, because what some people fail to recognize is that them giving in to this competitive spirit that exists, in this country or just anywhere where you live, that actually deepens your depression. I mean, you're actually the only one that can control how your outlook is on life. You know what I mean? I mean, of course, some people will bring up all types of issues. What if you're homeless? What if this? And what if you have to move back into your parents' house? You would have to ask different people, but there is a story out there that Jaquil introduced on the show about, I believe you did introduce, how there was a homeless gentleman who actually created an application.
Yeah.
And there he is in the photo smiling. Is he aware that he's homeless? Yes, he's been aware of that for quite some time.
Right.
Is he unhappy about it, depressed about it? Maybe that would be some research we could do and find out. But his outlook on life, being a creative individual, right, will probably in many ways lead to him catapulting himself out of that position.
Yeah, and you think about any person who's depressed, you got to look at their perception, because
Exactly.
if you perceive something as a negative, it'll be that.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think a lot of what depresses us is that we've been taught things have to be a certain way our whole life, and then when things don't manifest themselves that way, we think we're a failure, we think we're inadequate, we think we're this, we're that.
Right.
And
Right.
then we start looking at ourselves as opposed to looking at what we can do to better our situation right now, as versus, well, I didn't make $1 million.
Right.
I didn't become a professional football player that I wanted, so my life is over.
Right.
But that's, like I said, that's not really reasonable. One thing I wanted to build on that relates to the sun, and it's simple. When you think about original people, our melanin, and how important the sunlight is for us to be balanced. But think of a plant. If you keep a plant out of the sun for a short time, you're going to see it wilt, and
Right.
Yeah.
you'll see it look like it's in a depressed state. So,
Exactly. All slumped over, and
Exactly.
Looking
Exactly.
all pitiful.
You know,
You put it in the
outside,
sun
man.
for a little while, and it sprouts
Yeah.
right back up.
Yeah, I actually had a plant like that I couldn't, I forgot the name of it, but I couldn't kill this plant. And I'm not saying I tried to kill it, but I'm a terrible plant person, right? So I put it there, we put some water in it, have it next to the window, and forget to put water in it for like months. I'd walk into the room and pay attention, like, oh man, my plant looks like it's dying. Throw some water in it, kind of tilt it back so it's got good sunlight, and then it shoot back up and be good. So yeah, I see what you're saying. Man.
Yeah, so we should look at ourselves the same way. I mean, it's important that we get as much sunlight as we possibly can. You know, especially the darker shaded people on the planet. And not only is the sunlight good for depression, but it's good for like just about everything across the board. You know, I think it's important for original people to not necessarily take what European scientists say about certain
You
things.
mean like the sun causes cancer and sunscreen protects
Exactly.
you
Right.
from cancer and the sun?
Right. That's not across the board. That's only dealing with them as a people. You know, if you're not getting enough sunlight, you're exposed. You know, you're not only are you making it so that your immune system is a lot weaker, but you're just exposing yourself to a multitude of issues from diabetes to high blood pressure, heart disease, cardiovascular disease across the board. So, you know, the sun is your friend.
So now, since we're coming off of depression, we have this medical condition referred to as bipolar. Okay, where they're, you know, the poles of your brain, so to speak, are imbalanced. I think in terms of media, I remember hearing about singer and artist Macy Gray, how she was dealing with her bipolarism by, you know, using drugs, you know, psychotropic drugs. So I wanted to just kind of put that out there. What is bipolar? Let's define it, and how can it be treated naturally? Because we know that they prescribe medication to people that have bipolarism.
Well, bipolar to me is like manic depressive. So you basically your moods change rapidly. You know, it's a mental disorder marked by altering periods of elation and depression. So you may 1 minute be energized, you know, doing a gang of work, and then 10, 15 minutes later you're just in a depressed state where you're hunched over and you don't want to talk to nobody and things of that nature. To me, a lot of that has to do with your nutrition. You know, you may 1 minute, you know, get a very nutritious meal, your body's balanced, you feel good. Then the next minute you're eating junk food, you're eating fast food, you're eating sugar, and you go the opposite way. You know what I mean? So that's one thing, one cause I think for bipolar issues.
Yeah, indeed. No, and then you know, just to add on, like you said, nutrition is a big part of it because that affects you know, the balance of chemicals in the brain, right? And so eating certain foods will release certain chemicals. Eating other foods have certain chemicals in them that will block certain receptor sites in your brain.
MSG and things like that.
Right, and that would definitely cause bipolarity. So, you know, it's the similar kind of thing where you just need to really look at what the brain is doing. Does it have too much dopamine? Is not enough dopamine? Right? What's going on, and make adjustments and balance that out.
Wow. So I know that there are other elements rooted in the brain, such as Alzheimer's. And you know, one of the things about Alzheimer's is that, you know, studies are continuing to come out about what will combat Alzheimer's. So why don't we just kind of couple that discussion with what will boost intelligence, and in turn what will lead to the prevention of Alzheimer's?
Yeah, from my research, a lot of what causes Alzheimer's is a mucus buildup in the brain, as well as aluminum buildup. So whether it's, you know, getting you can get access to aluminum various different ways. You know, vaccines.
Right, that's where it begins.
Yeah, deodorant is a major one.
Exactly. Huge one.
You know, your nutrition, a lot of things
Colognes.
you eat. Yeah, there's a study that I saw, or an experiment the scientist did, where I can't remember what kind of cereal it was, but he took a magnet where he
Yeah,
magnetized
and it has
over
enriched iron in it.
enriched iron, and
Yeah,
then
that's
he
the
actually
key
pulled
word.
out metal chips
Yeah.
from the cereal.
Yeah.
Wow, we have to do some follow up on
Yeah,
that to show our
yeah,
people.
exactly.
True.
So it's just being mindful of the various different foods and ingredients. Like like I always say, I've said it millions of times on this show. If you look at ingredients on a box and you can't pronounce it, don't know what it is, don't eat it. If you're in the wilderness and you saw something on the ground that didn't look right, you've never seen it before, you're probably not going to eat it. So it's the same
It
premise.
depends. Did it say Snickers or McDonald's? Because that might be safer than berries and things.
I wanted
No,
to
go
share.
ahead.
No, go ahead, bro.
No, I was just gonna say that the guys are 100% right and exact as far as what he was saying. Any kind of real heavy metals in the brain can cause Alzheimer's disease, right? And so you really want to look at, and a lot of that is just environmental too. The God gave you a lot of ways that you can get it from food, right? But a lot of it's just in the environment, just being out.
Water, things of that nature.
Right. And so, again, I'm of the thought pattern that there's not at least in this day and age, there's not a way that you can eat 100% right and exact, right? And so you definitely want to try and do the best that you can, right? Pay attention to what you're eating, and like the guy said, if you can't pronounce that long word that's got a whole bunch of consonants and no vowels in it, right? You probably shouldn't be eating it. That being said, too, you also want to make sure that you do things to combat things that you're not able to get away with just from nutrition, right? And so whether that's taking some kind of herbs, and I wanted to add that on too. As far as the herbs that you take, be mindful where you're getting it from and where it comes from, because a lot of times those herbs themselves are tainted.
Right.
So you're thinking that you're doing something beneficial for yourself, but you're actually poisoning yourself at the same time.
Right.
That's why you connect with this brother right here and
Right.
get you in the right direction.
Yeah, and also it's good because when you deal with herbs and anything dealing with nutrition, if these brothers themselves can't train you, or you can't necessarily get in contact with them in person, they always have people they can refer you to, and I think references is a really important thing. I mean, if you can find someone that's reputable in any field and they have a long track record of doing what they're doing, by all means you can talk to them. Aside from that, for those of us who are interested in superfoods, you can look on the Kaiser Permanente website. I remember I had an encounter with a doctor. I had to take my son in to, what was it, me? I can't really remember. But anyway, I know that I went into this doctor. Yeah, I did. I brought my son in, and she happened to be a vegan, and she was basically telling me about, the list of superfoods that, people should consume. If you look on that site, I mean, among other things, you have beans, black beans, chickpeas, pinto beans,
The Muslims be on that hard. The black bean, the
Yeah.
navy bean soup.
It's the
It's business.
kidney beans. You have blueberries for memory. Apparently, it enhances your memory. Broccoli, and I don't know which one of you have mentioned it, but I don't know how you both feel about flax seeds.
It's the oil, I think.
Yeah,
right?
what is it about flax seeds that people need to be aware
Besides that, they're poison and toxic.
of? Okay.
I'm not sure. Other than that, no.
Right.
Yeah. So what happens? It's in the process,
Mhm.
right, of making it, where it begins to turn rancid and thus being poison for your toxic to the body. Yes, you definitely want to.
Is it the seed or the oil, though?
It's the process and how they convert it.
From seed to oil.
Yeah. So
Is the seed itself?
the seed, I guess, is okay, but again, then you got to look at, okay, so where's that seed coming from, and what kind of farming practices are being done in that area, right? So most people are doing flaxseed because they're trying to get essential fatty acids, right? So that it's a good start, but there's definitely better sources to get your omega-3, 6, and 9.
Okay. Thank you for that. You have hot peppers, and I know hot peppers are really good. Just
Eating spicy food
yeah, it's
you know,
great.
is
man,
definitely a
It's
great
great.
thing.
garlic.
I had this conversation with my big brother, martial art instructor, a long time ago. I was eating some soup and it was really hot. He was like, "Man, you should just drink it up and eat it." And he was like, "You ever think about why people in like the jungle never get sick and are
Right.
always so healthy?" And I was like, "Nah, why?" And he was like, "Well, if you eat so many chili peppers," and then he kind of went through the science, of eating hot foods and what does that do to your body. So it definitely is a cleansing type thing.
Yeah.
And so eating that is definitely good for you, as hot as you can take it.
Yeah, think about like when you eat, something really spicy. Right after that, your nose is clear.
Opens up,
Right.
starts
You can
sweating.
breathe a lot
Oh,
better,
yeah.
things of that nature. So, I mean,
Sure
it's,
indeed.
it's clear.
So now, what would be some other things that would be good Alzheimer preventative food or drink, or just things that you can do to prevent Alzheimer?
I think
Study
cleansing.
120.
Studying 120? True indeed. Right.
My martial art teacher, he didn't study 120, but he had his martial art, right? And so that was the thing that he did within practicing all those forms over and over again, right? That mental exercise keeps the brain sharp.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and then cleansing. Definitely cleansing, cleaning your body out, trying to rid your body of those heavy metals.
Aluminum.
Yeah. And, Jack Hill had me on a mineral blend that definitely did that.
Mm.
Um,
All right, yeah, man. All right.
yeah. So,
Source minerals from a good spot too. You don't want to get crappy minerals in the body.
yeah, so I think a lot of it is just cleaning your body out, so because you're born with everything you need. So if you can clean the system out and let it do its job, then
Yeah.
you'll be all right.
Exactly.
And I also heard that anything you should participate in activities that puzzle you. So crossword puzzles, math,
Sudoku,
right? Sudoku, man.
And proper math, not like we talked about in the current event, where 4 times 3 equals 11.
Right.
You
yeah.
try to do real math.
Origami. I mean,
Yeah.
that-
Oh, the folding
Whew,
paper thing?
yeah, man. You want to really puzzle yourself? Because
No, that is puzzling. That's why I'm trying.
I can only do a few of those things, man. They make me mad.
Yeah.
I think I made
Dynamic.
a swan before.
Oh, you-
That's about as far.
You
as-
did?
No, I was gonna say like dynamic exercise. So not your lay on the bench press with one motion, but exercises that combine various different movements in one, because that challenges the nervous system, obviously challenging your brain and things of that nature
Exactly.
too. So.
And exercising is also a great way to increase memory
Mhm.
too. So. If you're studying 120 while you exercise, you'll be taking care of 2 things at
Man.
once.
Great. So why don't we go ahead and take a brief break, and we'll come back and talk a little bit more about mental health. And also we're going to go into chronic illness, obesity, and common aches and pains. Peace.
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 Peace. Welcome back to the Knowledge of Self Radio Show. My name is Teray Allah.
Peace to rule Allah.
Peace, Jaquel Law.
And now we're going to go into a discussion about chronic illness, what causes chronic illnesses, obesity, and common aches and pains. So one of the questions that we had posed, and we're going to go into the next ones as we finish up this segment. Let's begin with what is the biggest cause of obesity in America, and how can it be reversed? So
McDonald's.
True
And
indeed.
stop eating there.
fast food, and what else would be what would be some other causes of obesity?
Sitting on your behind all day.
All right, so a sedentary lifestyle and
Yeah.
fast food. Also, any type of snacks or anything that we would consider deemed as artificial preservatives, sugar, and things of that nature, definitely contributes to obesity.
Right.
Yeah,
I'd
definitely
even
look at
say-
MS.
go
Oh,
ahead,
pardon me. MSG, the effects of MSG and obesity. You know, we did a show on that where we went more into the science of it, but basically, just a little bit of MSG at a young age is, in essence, going to cause you to be obese. So it doesn't take a whole lot.
Mhm.
But just not eating clean. You know, fast food, meaning across the board. So anything that takes a very short time to make
Mhm.
generally is not going to be the greatest for you, and it's probably going to lead to obesity in some capacity. So,
Right.
you know,
Right. Let's continue. One of the things I think would be really good to share with our viewers is, what would be some natural ways that our viewers can reduce body fat.
By
Because
calling Jerul and getting on the Jerul workout plan.
so we'll begin with exercise. What would be some other things that we could suggest? Because I know it's always rooted in eating and how often we eat.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say with obesity too. Is in America, there's a couple of things wrong with how we eat. I'd say the first thing is we do it too much. This thing behind that is our portions are like double, almost 3 times the size of anywhere else. So when you're eating too much and then you're eating too big of portions, and you're sitting on your butt all day, and you're not exercising, that definitely sets the stage for obesity.
Right. I think, it also begins in childhood, many of the things, and I mean the choices are really slim in your typical supermarkets of trying to find healthy foods to give to your child. Nobody's perfect. We're all still looking for, that place which is going to have reasonable prices with high quality food. So it begins with your child. Right now I'm in the middle of a little civil war in terms of my son eating, cafeteria lunch, which he wants to do. I know where that goes at a young age. There are a lot of things attributed to obesity. It all begins in schools. So one of the things I would tell parents is if you want to prevent your child or reduce the how should I say, the possibility that your child will become obese, is by sending your child healthy snacks and lunches to take to school. Celery sticks, carrots, whole wheat bread, things of that nature. Because really lunch is not meant to be, a 3 or 4 course meal, man. I'm always amazed. Some of my colleagues, man, some of them eat lunches where I'm just like, wow, you need
What are you gonna
like,
have for dinner?
yeah,
Are you gonna eat
man,
dinner too?
you need half a pizza, or you need a big soda,
Right.
extra large fries,
Right.
Big
Yeah.
Mac. Like, you need that for lunch, really?
Right.
So
No, that's important because, and I think we've talked about that on the show, right? If some people do need to eat more, right? Because, like for instance, my job isn't so physical, right? But if I was a construction worker, maybe or a football player, you know what I mean? Something where I'm a lot more active. Of course, I'm going to be burning more than the average person, so I'm going to need to consume more, right? But especially you talking about your coworkers who are teachers, just sitting at a desk all day. Maybe you get up and you walk across the classroom back and forth, and you come back and sit down. Man, to eat that kind of food like that is just not beneficial to your health. You're not burning what you're putting in.
Yeah, it's like life always says, you know, update the lesson.
Mhm.
You know, a lot of that foundation is large. You know, the large breakfasts and the large meals comes from a time in America when there was a lot of manual labor. You know,
Yeah.
majority of jobs people were, you know, building and constructing things, so you needed that energy to get through the day.
Mhm.
Whereas in this day and time, most people are sedentary and you're not active as much, so the
Right.
diet should shift
Mhm.
in, you know, relation to that.
Right, you know, and I really would have liked to, just in hindsight, you know, find that study, but there was a study that was released last year which was proving that people who ate would be considered larger lunches or lunch in general, they perform poorly than
Yeah.
workers who did not eat lunch.
Yeah.
You know, so they just said that when they eat lunch, their performance drops. You know,
Sure.
I mean, through that period where they're digesting the food, whereas others, on average, perform way better. You know, so that's
Think
definitely something. Yeah.
Yeah, think of it like think about if we were in the wilderness, right? You know, I always go back to that, but you're in a place where you need to find food.
Hmm.
Of course, you're going to be sharper. You're going to be your senses are going to be more on point, and you're going to be a little bit more um, alert
Yeah.
because you have to find food, or you won't survive.
Hmm.
So, you know, obviously, when you find the food, now you can kick back, kick your feet up, and be relaxed for a minute. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So I think a lot of it has to do with that.
Great point.
And then I'm sure you've probably seen it too, like you said about the performance. Generally, like for instance, when I teach seminars on energetic medicine,
Hmm.
um, I normally don't allow people to take a lunch break
Mhm.
until they've already learned that information. Because once they eat, they're not going to be able to learn any new information for a while. And a lot of that is because how people are eating, right? I might have talked about it before, but here you go if I haven't. Proper food combining, right? If you're eating protein and starches together, that's going to be heavier on your body and harder to digest. So the energy that you'd be using for critical things like thinking um, gets used to digest your food. So now you become dumber while you digest your over heavy meal.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? And so, if you were to eat properly, uh, if you're gonna have protein, have it with no starch. Uh, that will actually energize your body and not be so taxing on your body. And then things like thinking and being more alert and attentive are easier.
Yeah, it's
Right,
funny you
good
say that
point.
because a lot of clients that I have initially, when they come in, they'll eat a huge breakfast and
And
wonder,
not be able to work out
not be able to
properly.
work out properly. They'll get sick, they'll get
Uh-huh.
lightheaded, and things of that nature. And then I simply tell them that, you know, the way that your blood works is that wherever it's needed in the body, it'll shift more blood to that region. So if you're eating, you'll
Yeah.
need more blood for digestion.
Right.
So that's taking blood away from your brain and other different areas that is needed, and that's going to cause, you know, conflict of interest.
Right.
You know.
Good point. So, how about one of the things that I think people would like to know, because most people don't have the opportunity to study these things.
Oh, he can't tell you where he gets his fly shirts from. Oh, no, someone else wants to know. Okay. Someone else.
Oh, man. One of the things is what are some of the causes of your typical aches and pains? You know, that's one of the things that I really wanted us to tell our viewers.
Yeah. Do you want to go in first? Or
Yeah, I mean, you know, majority of the
Sit back.
clients that I see, I'll do a fitness test or, you know, a test to basically tell me how their body's functioning or malfunctioning. The majority of people have overly tight hip flexors, which comes from sitting. You're in a seated position, that means your hips are flexed all day. Then that muscle becomes inflamed and tight. So when you stand up, it causes your pelvis to shift forward into a tilted position, which puts your back in a strained position. And a lot of lower back pain is rooted in that. A lot of times people think, oh, my back's messed up. And I'll ask them, do you have a desk job? Do you sit all day? Yeah. Well, it's not necessarily your back that's messed up. It's your hips
Yeah.
causing your back to be messed
Yeah.
up. The body's a unit, so when one area is off, it may affect another area where you actually feel the pain at.
Can you say
know
that
what I mean?
again, please?
The body is a unit.
What do you mean by unit?
It works in unison with itself. So
okay.
it's not sectioned off. Like you think about, you go to the doctor and you have a specialist for your heart, a specialist for renal or kidneys and things of that nature,
Right.
which it doesn't make sense because everything's connected. So they're not really telling you how your heart and kidneys are connected because they
Right.
don't have the capacity to do so. So I think it's important to look at the body as a unit, and when you have an issue in your body, look at what you're doing in your lifestyle and try to determine what could be causing that. Like I said, a lot of lower back pain, a lot of neck pain is derived from desk jobs and being in a position where you're at a computer and your shoulders are rounded like this all day.
Yeah.
You're hunched over, and then majority of the issues that I see, like I said, lower back pain, knee pain, neck pain, ankle pain, and that's all rooted from desk jobs.
Wow.
Or
And
being seated.
what's interesting is over the years, I've heard about quite a few women having hip replacements. And they don't have any history in athletics.
Man,
That's just one of those.
that's a
interesting
different thing.
things,
That's
man.
because they're not getting enough estrogen, and the bones are being formed. We should make a whole show about that. 'Cause
Wow,
that's,
man.
Yeah, it's too much milk too. Too much cow's milk,
Yeah.
which is going to sound crazy to most of us because we grew up in the campaign of milk does a body good. But in all actuality, there's been studies to prove that milk will actually deplete the structure of your bones and things of that nature. So.
Right. Remember that was that study that we shared on one of our health shows, where they actually did a really long study on women in Europe, and in terms of how that was affecting not only their bone health, but also how it was deeply affecting pregnancies. But specifically, it talked about the deterioration of the bones that we brought out.
Sure, because you also got to think too, all those nutrients and vitamins that you would have been using for yourself, you now have to split and share with someone as far as you being pregnant, right? So if you're not getting enough in the first place for yourself, you're taking that little bit of what you're getting and trying to split with someone else.
Right.
Right. That's why when women get pregnant, they get a bigger appetite because they're supposed to take in more nutrients.
Yes.
Not junk food, but more nutrients.
Right. Not more McDonald's.
Right.
Great point.
And I would say to add on as far as a lot of the causes of pain, a real simple cause is inflammation. And a lot of times people are getting that from the foods that they're eating. You know what I mean?
Sugars.
Wheat, nuts, and dairy are all inflammatic or cause an inflammatory response in the body, right? So if you're eating in excess of those things and your body doesn't handle the inflammatory response properly, then yeah, you're going to get joint pains and aches and things like that, because that's your body's just inflamed, and inflammatory will cause pains like that. So a lot of times people don't realize it's just the body's just super inflamed, and so once we take away the things that are causing the inflammation and then begin to treat and remove the inflammation, then those things will go away.
So, I'm glad that you did that, because one of the things that came out in my study over the years from Sifu Richard Chim, he's Sifu in the city of Long Beach at the Lao Kundo Temple. And definitely check him out. He's located over there off of Broadway in Lindero. Being a Chinese medicine practitioner, he would hold these classes with those of us who were his students. And the only thing I can share, because I can't really go into detail about some of the information, because those are his jewels that he shared with us, but we did talk about some of the ways that we can identify some issues within our own health. So I just had a brief list to share with our audience. And one of the things that our Sifu taught us was just how to identify different problems with the body. Just you can do it on your own. So if there's a problem with the liver or the gallbladder, one of the emotions attributed to those problems is anger, and you can diagnose that by looking at a person's eye. If your eyes are off colored, they may be a little yellow or red, but if they're not the normal white that you're used to seeing, generally that's associated with a liver or gallbladder problem.
Have y'all seen Michael Jordan lately? Man, he needs to watch the show. His
Really?
eyes look really, yeah, brown in the corners and things like that.
You need to
so.
check them out, man.
And that could also be due to some other things too, as far as the there's a whole science on the iridology and the study of the eye and how it's supposed to relate to different things in the body. You know, it could also be that he's not using the bathroom properly, as far as what do they call it, number two.
Right,
You're
very
not
good.
doing that enough properly yet. That'll cause a lot of things to go on in your eye too.
Guys taking notes. It's great stuff. Next thing, the lung. So if there's some issue with the lung or the large intestine, the emotions associated with it are usually what we just said. A person that's consistently sad or depressed, and you can actually see that through their tongue. The heart, if there's an issue with the heart or the small intestine, a person is usually really emotional or moody. Again, that's something that can be revealed through the mouth, through looking at the mouth. Kidney and urinary bladder issues. Sifu said that a person generally is scared when they have a problem with their kidneys or their urinary bladder. And one of the symptoms is if they tend to have a tired back, or their back is always hurting them, that's usually rooted in the kidney or the urinary bladder. And finally, an issue with the spleen or the stomach. Generally, people who are worrisome consistently, they're always worried about something. That apparently is something that can be diagnosed through, looking at the ear. So, the one thing that we're going to follow up on is just trying to establish within our viewers that the body is a what?
It's a unit.
And
Not a G unit.
It actually is a G unit.
It's a G unit through
It
it.
is.
Yeah. That when one thing goes awry, the other thing is affected. And he's emphasizes, my brother Jakil, that you must take care of your liver and your kidneys, because when your liver goes, man, you
Downhill.
yeah, it's an issue. Your kidney goes out. You can get a kidney where you can live without one kidney. However, no kidneys, you through dealing, brother.
I mean, just like you can live without tonsils too, right? But I wouldn't recommend that.
Right. True indeed.
Right.
So, I mean, why don't we go into, there's a couple of things. What are some signs and symptoms of diabetes, high blood pressure, and heart disease? I think that's something that we need to leave our audience with. I mean, if you're 25, 26 years old, and you're at your ideal height and weight, but yet something doesn't feel quite right, I mean, how would they be able to identify diabetes and heart disease? Because, being our body type, we still can be prone to heart disease and diabetes. I don't think a lot of people know that. It's not just obesity that brings things on, but what are some of the things that are considered symptoms of diabetes and heart disease?
Diabetes, numbness in the limbs, lightheadedness, fatigue.
Yeah.
That's to name a few. When you think about like heart issues, similar. A lot of the symptoms are similar, but you could have lightheadedness, numbness in the limbs, shortness of breath, fatigue, just an inability to do a lot of the tasks that you used to do for no apparent reason. You know what I mean? Like you may have been able to run a mile with ease before, but now you get to a couple steps and you're ready to sit down and go to sleep. So things like that. Yeah, that's just to name a few.
So that's a great list.
Yeah.
No, I think that's a great start for people to look at.
Now, what would be some things, again, just to remind our viewers before we go, to prevent heart disease and diabetes? What specific things can our viewers do to prevent those things?
If you're original, get as much vitamin D, sunlight as you possibly can. Start there. But it's really just about not putting certain things in your body. So keeping your sugar as low as possible, keeping your sodium as low as possible, keeping your meat intake low, dairy, which I like to call liquid meat, alcohol, all the stuff we know not to OD on, but we tend to still do anyways. Eat a lot more green vegetables, green leafy vegetables particularly, fruits and vegetables, even juicing. If you're not a big fan of eating all of that, juicing is great to, get a surplus of nutrients in your system without having to chew and eat all of that food. But best way would be to eat it, but if you can't, juice.
Anything else to add on, brother?
I think the guy really hit it there. It's just be careful of the things that are going into your body. And again, I'm not the person that's gonna say you need to be perfect and you need to eat a certain way. I get it, right? But you definitely need to take those counter measures, and then in moderation, right? If you're gonna drink, knock yourself out. That being said, let's keep it to a
don't knock yourself out.
Yeah. Don't
Literally knock yourself out.
Right? But go ahead and have your drink or two.
And there are kosher drinks out there. There are kosher wines. I mean, without the garbage, man, that's in the bottom of those dark wine bottles. The ones you can't see inside of at the bottom. There's a lot of garbage at the bottom of those, man.
Stay away from stuff that can start your car, right?
Oh, man.
Yeah, if you can substitute gasoline for what you're drinking, you probably shouldn't be drinking.
Wow, man.
Yeah, one thing I like to say about moderation, you hear the saying, people say, everything is fine in moderation. Well, that's not 100% the case, because if you drink alcohol in moderation, eat meat in moderation, have unprotected sex in moderation, all of those moderations become a major in coupled with each other. You know what I mean? So if you're otherwise living a healthy lifestyle, doing one or two of these things isn't necessarily going to be a major hindrance. But when you're doing all these major issues in moderation, then it becomes a major issue in itself. So.
Great point. And I think on that note, we can go into the read, view, and do. How about we, Jerul, if you wouldn't mind giving the viewers the read, I'll do the view, Brother Jaquil would do the do.
Great book by Mikhail Tomback. It's called Can We Live for 150 Years? Oh, and the second is the Illustrated Encyclopedia of Healing Remedies.
And by the way, that's by C. Norman Shilley.
Okay.
And the view, I encourage everyone to watch the Weight of the Nation series and the do.
Is that on HBO?
Yes, and you can
Yeah,
look
you
at
can
it
watch
on
that for free, right?
Top
Online.
Documentaries.
Yes, there you go. And for the do, begin a lifestyle change from exercise and better nutrition. So the guy right here, my brother, he's he's the workout man. So he'll tell you that every first of the year, there's a whole bunch of people in the gym, and then they disappear. Don't be one of the people who disappear.
Right.
Stay there for the long run.
Right.
Yeah, and I think the key word in that is lifestyle. With a lifestyle, it's something that you practice daily,
Yeah,
and don't think of it like, oh, I need to lose this 20 pounds.
exactly.
Because
Exactly, God.
if you reach the 20 pounds, more than likely you're gonna be like, oh, I reached it, and then you'll just kind of
Then
like,
what happens?
yeah. Or you'll be like, damn, that 20 pounds is such a huge Mount Everest to
Right. I
climb.
can never get there.
I can never get there, and then you get discouraged. But just think about living healthier and doing it daily. You know what I mean? And then what happens as far as weight loss and things of that nature will occur. Just making
Naturally.
it consistent. Yeah.
Yeah, yes, sir. That's what I tell all my clients too. As far as I put them on different diet restrictions, and you see everyone, get that whole lack of vitamin D thing, and they go, "Oh man, like I can't eat this and that." I'm like, there's so much things to eat, so don't think about it as a diet. Think about it as a lifestyle change, right? And you're changing the way that you're living your life now. It's not a diet. It seems to have bad connotations to it.
Right, and for those of us,
Maybe it's
our
because
people.
maybe it's because it has dye in it. I don't know.
Yeah, die.
Pardon me.
That's good. Remember that one.
Yeah,
So
'cause you will die with it, right?
Yeah.
I think one of the things, if I could tell our people who may not have, they lack transportation to go, to grocery stores that have a healthier selection of food, and you frequent a 7-Eleven or a Arco or a Circle K, if it's like that for you, try to find a place where you can get a better selection of food and walk those extra few blocks. Past that 7-Eleven to get that nasty hot dog that's been sitting there since 8 o'clock in the morning, and here you are hungry for dinner.
8 o'clock
at
yesterday
5 or
morning.
6 o'clock. Yeah, and I mean that thing is just spinning on that whatever you call that thing. The
Spinning thing.
the spinning thing, the kebab. But the main thing is that figure out ways that you can exercise. I mean, if you have a heavy book in your house and you can't afford to go to the gym, lift up the heavy book,
Yeah.
and then you get used to that, put another one on it. You can lift up a chair to lift weights. You don't have to go to Gold's Gym.
Yeah,
The guy to tell you all about that.
yeah, your body is a weight in itself.
True
So
indeed.
if you just a little bit creative in this day and time, we all have access to YouTube, so there's no excuse. You
Oh.
could type in body weight exercises.
Or you can type in
Indeed.
Jarul and look up his videos.
Even better. Yeah, you want to see the Incredible Hulk.
Yeah.
Check it out. And
Oh, go ahead.
yeah, one more thing I wanted to add to the view. Look at that episode where Mr. T was in Rocky when he was Clubber Lang.
Yeah.
Look at how he was training compared to Rocky.
Yeah.
He whooped Rocky's ass the first. But yeah, check that out. It's a really good. No, I'm not saying incorporate that. I'm saying just get the mentality of natural ways of exercise. It's kinda tight, man.
Right. Or for those of you who like to see Rocky win, when Rocky fought the what's his name?
Russian man?
Yeah, the Russian dude.
Yeah.
Rocky was training naturally, the Russian
Yeah,
dude.
he had
So
the
messed
log
up.
and he was.
Sure indeed.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you know
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
yeah.
So it's a natural way of doing things. And also, I wanted to add on the reason why I keep referring to God as far as workout things. It's the same reason why I refer to Ray when it comes to the services that he provides. Is there's a lot of people who do a lot of things, but they're just doing it. They don't necessarily know about it, right? And so it's really the knowledge and understanding that someone has that makes what they're doing good. Because there's a lot of people who are doing things, but if they can't explain to you how to do it or why to do it, or even see what you might need to change, or change that thing to make it work for you, then you're definitely going to be missing out. So I refer these people because they are experts and know what they're talking about in their respective fields. Right? So definitely, if you're not going out to these brothers, maybe reach out to them and ask them questions that they can give you to ask to those people that you're going out to, so
Definitely.
that you can qualify them to make sure that they know what they're supposed to know.
And with that being said, we would like to thank all of you for joining us at the Knowledge Yourself radio show. And I'll give Jaquil the last word.
Yeah, Knowledge Yourself Radio. You don't have to go to college to do the knowledge.
Peace.
Peace. Great show, man.
Yes.